Okay, let's mark exercise 13.1 on page 159. I did not want the answers here. I said that to you in class. You need to just take this word sum and write it for me as a number sum. This is the first practice we do for using the new terminology in that you learned in algebra. So when they say 36 is less than 41, they want to know that you know the symbol for is less than 36 is less than 41. In this case, it's not a minus sum. I know less than can also mean minus, but then they would have said, what is 36 less than 41? Or they would have said, work out 36 less than 41. But when they say 36 is less than, then all you need to do is indicate with the smaller than symbol. Remember, the smallest side points to the smallest number. The product of 16 and 5, I want to know that you know product means times. I don't care for the answer today. 66 is increased by 92. So I want to know that increased by means plus 92. Yes?
Teacher, when asking like 66 is increased by 92 or 36 is less than 41, doesn't matter. Do you have to do it in that order that they told you?
The order for timesing and plussing never matters. So you could have done it in another order there. But the order for minusing and dividing does matter. Okay. Quotient is divide. The quotient of 93 and 32 is 93 divided by 32. Difference between, now that is minus, so it's 85 minus 15. 56 is less than the square of 10. Is less than refers to my ducky sign. So 56 is less than the square of 10. 10 squared. Can you see that on is the blue fine?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. The square root of 4, I'm going to start by writing that. Square root of 4 looks like this. Is greater than, now I have a bigger than symbol, greater than, the cube of 1. 1 cubed is 1 with a little 3 at the top. If they said cube root, you would have done the root sign with a little 3 there. Half of 100. Now, how would I write half of 100? You can write 100 divided by 2. Or you can be nice and fancy and write 100 over 2. I like that. Okay. If you wrote 100 divided by 2, it's still correct. You could have even written half of, I'm going to show you now, is decreased by 28. That decreased by means minus. So your other option here, you could have said a half of 100 if you wanted to do that, minus 28. Because if you look at Botmas and your order of operation of sums must be done before minus sums. So you'd still, working out a half of 100 is the same as 100 over 2. So that's another option. You didn't have to put the brackets in because they would anyway apply. For Botmas, it had to be done first. Last two, I'm going to try and move this a little there. The cube root of 64, so a cube root has a little 3, like I said, is equal to the square of 2. That is 2 with a little 2 at the top. That's 2 squared. Next, the square of 8, that's 8 with a little 2 at the top, is not equal to, there's a symbol for that, equal with a not, is not equal to 16. And that's something I often have to tell learners because this does not mean 8 times 2.
It's 8 times.
It's 8 times 8. And so maybe this is a good way to show someone that 8 with a little 2 at the top does not mean 8 times 2. It means 8 times 8. Okay. Next. Can I go on? You marked? Turn your page. Page 160, exercise 13.2. Like this. That's not working. Let's try again. There. At the top. Find the value of the expressions. Can 4 times a plus 2 if a is 3. Can you remember what do we call it when we have to do this? Good, substitution. We substitute. That's like having a substitute teacher. Your teacher can't be here, so they use a substitute. So A can't be here anymore. Sorry, A got coronavirus, and we're going to replace him with a 3. So that's 4 times 3 plus 2.
So they don't want that, they want the value. So like coefficient.
Find the value of the following expression means working out the answer. So our value means that you have to just work out the number that it's going to be in the end. So when we do this,
Never mind.
when we do this, 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 2? 14. Number 2. Look at B. B is being substituted by a 24. 24 divided by 8 minus 3. 0. So it's 0 because 24 divided by 8 is 3. And 3 minus 3 is 0. Number 3. M. Now you need to look. When I take 5 and I replace the m with a 5, the square remains there. So now I'm going to work out 5 squared minus 4. That is, what is 5 times 5? That's 25 minus 4. So that's giving me 21. Next, I'm replacing the p with a 27. But then I must still work out the cube root of it. So I need to do, cube root means what times what times what gives me 27. What times what times what?
12.
No. 3. What's 3 times 3?
6. 9.
9. Just gone on a roll. 9. What's 9 times 3?
21.
Ooh, blow bond up. Okay, so my answer to the cube root of 27 is 3 because 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. That's 11. Okay, number 5. Now, there's 2 substitutes. Both your teachers are absent. So now, 1 needs to be squared there. And for y, I need to use a 2, which I must cube. So 1 times 1 is 1. And 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So 2 cubed is 8. And that answer is then 9. Last one. P is going to turn into a 2 and Q is going to turn into a 3. So it's 2 times 2, I'm just going to write this out now, plus 5 times 3. Okay. Remember Botmas? So remember, I'm just going to do those times first and then I'm going to plus them together. So that's going to be 4 plus 15 and that's 19. Okay, let's see what we get here. I'm gonna work it out. You know what? I'm gonna color code. It's gonna be the easiest to. They asked me to identify. I can't solve these, guys. They don't give me what P must be. They don't tell me. Okay, so please know I wasn't looking for an answer here. There is no answer for an algebraic expression unless you give me something to substitute into the expression. But all they're asking you here is tell me which ones are the coefficients. Tell me which ones are the variables, and I've already done that one blue, so I'll do the variables in blue, I'll do the coefficients in red, and then I'll do the constants in green. Now, let's start with the coefficients. In this case, 5 is the coefficient. In this case, guys, I want you to write 1 is the coefficient. I know it might look like there's no coefficient, but if there is a variable, if there is a m, how many m's are there?
5.
How many m's are there? And b, sorry, I'm at b. How many m's are there in b? 1. And that's why the coefficient is 1. How many p's are there in A? If you look at A, how many p's are there in A? There's 5. So the coefficient is 5 when there's a 5 in front. I don't put a 1 in front of the m because clearly you can see there's 1 m. And I will put a 2 there if there's 2 m's, right? But there is actually a little 1. So just to explain to you why, if it looks like there's no coefficient, there must be a coefficient if there's a variable, but then you must just say the coefficient is 1. Just change it. It wasn't a test. Change yours. Now you're learning something. The coefficient here is 8 and the coefficient there is 7. Variables will be what I did in blue here. It's the letters B, M, X, Y. Those were easy. And then the constant terms. If the constant term is positive, you don't have to write a plus in front. You can just write the number. But if it's negative, if there's a minus in front, you must please put the minus in. So here you could just say 2 because it's positive 2. You can just say 4 because it's positive 4. Here you can just say 3 because it's also adding a 3, and here 9. Okay, all of them were positive. So the constant terms are the terms that's being plus or minus to the equation. At number 2, write down the constant terms in the following expression. So I'm again doing constant terms. It's the only ones that are not attached to or being times or divided by a variable. So here I've got the positive 1 again. Positive 5. Now for the first time, here's a negative 1. So you shouldn't have said 2, you should have said minus 2, please. So add it in. If you only said 2, add the minus in, please. And in this one, the 25 is positive because it's being plus. So only there, remember that you have to say minus 2 in your answer. Write down the coefficients of the following. Remember we were doing coefficient and they're only asking of y. So just what's being times or divided by y. So in this case it's a 3. In this case it's a 4. In this case it's a 1. You might need to make that change, please. And in this case, you need to be very careful. It's a minus 12. Add the minus in. When there is a negative, a minus in front, it means you can include it as a negative number. So it's minus 12. These negative parts, it's going to start making much more sense by grade 8 and 9. But for now, just remember when there's a minus, keep it with the number. Don't throw it out. Pluses are easy to throw out. Okay. Now at 4, and that was the last one you had to do, I asked you to write them as, the book said write the constant terms, but I said change it to write the expressions, hey?
Yes.
Let's write expressions. Red or blue?
Green.
Probeer dwars wees. Okay, write down the constant terms in the following expressions. I said please change that to write down the expressions. This is very good practice. 7 added to a certain variable. Just call it x. Good. 7 plus x. Or x plus 7. I'm glad that's exciting. B, 12 less than a variable. Again, anything. If you maybe you saw a variable and you thought you had to make it a, then go for it. Then you're going to say a minus 12 or x minus 12. But very importantly, not 12 minus x. Because if I tell you that the grade 6s are 3 learners less than us, does that mean 3 minus 22? No. If I tell you that they are 3 less than us, then we need to do us minus 3. So less than is a tricky one, and you always have to be awake there. It has to be the minus 12 at the end. A variable, and again, you can call it a, you can call it x, whatever, is multiplied by 4. So you could have said x times 4, but if you were fancy, like your teacher, you would say 4x. But please note, x4 is not technically wrong as well, x4, but in algebra we always put the numbers first and then the letter, so you should stop writing it like that. That's baby language. 8 subtracted from a variable means I take the variable and I then minus 8. You understand that you could have used any letter of the alphabet?
Yes.
Good, but make sure that you had your minus 8 second. Okay. I am going to 15 divided by a variable would be 15. There we go. 15 divided by x or any other letter. A variable is increased by 7. A variable is increased by 7. The product means times the product of a certain variable and 20. A certain variable times 20. A variable multiplied by 2. And then this product, so they say, and the product, which is this, subtracted from 11. So I need to put 11 first and then subtract that times 2 from it. 9 is added to the square of a variable. 9 is added to the square of a variable means x squared. The cube root of 64 looks like this. Let me just find a bit more space for that. The cube root of 64 added to 2 times a variable. Now you could write 2 times x, or you could just write 2x. So your other option would be to have cube root of 64 plus 2 times x. That would be right. See?